Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall Psychic, all the way from the Gold Coast. It's absolutely a sensational early winter's morning here on the Gold Coast, and it's nice, and I suppose when the sun gets up it'll be nice and sunny, but it's very, very crisp. So I hope wherever you are in this amazing planet of ours that you're having an absolutely sensational day, and that you really are being kind to yourself and sort of, taking a little bit of time out of your busy day to just sort of stop and smell the roses or smell the coffee, or just absorb life in general and be very pleased to be alive and be proud to be part of this amazing time in history that we're all sort of making history together. So this week I want to talk about the Simply Tarot card of the week, which is the Four of Cups. Now, the Four of Cups is an unusual sort of card because a lot of people look at it and just sort of look at the card and sort of see this gentleman sitting under a tree with his arms folded and sort of say, well, okay, what's this card all about? But it is the card of money fluctuations. It can also be the card of being offered something that you may not want. So I look at it as being a card of contemplation, of sitting there, you're comfortable under the tree, in the shade of the tree, and life's pretty cruisy, and you get offered something and you have to really think about it and think about, is this what you really want? Is this the direction that you want your life to go in? Now, sometimes that can involve money, but a lot of times it doesn't. But the reasons why I bring in money fluctuations at the beginning, because if you're sitting under the tree contemplating your life and sort of looking at things and devising things and working out where things are going, quite often money comes into that. So it can be a time of being deep in thought and reflecting or looking at what your next step is connected to money decisions. And unfortunately, money does make the world go round, and it's something that we all have to sort of work with and think about on a day-to-day basis. And for people that say to me, oh, I don't care about money, that's an absolute lie. We all do, because we all live in a world where money sort of does rule, and we do have to work with it. Whether we like it or not, we do have to work with money. So that takes me on to the next part of the show. And this week we are working with the new moon in Leo. And, I just love new moons. I mean, I think they're probably my favourite moon cycle because of the freshness, the newness, the opportunity, I think, to really sort of start something, to sort of get excited and get motivated and look at something different in our lives. And this week, the new moon in Leo will be August 1, or the 1st of August if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, and it's in Leo, so it's in a fire sign. So it's a time to get sort of up off the chair, to be motivated, to be enthusiastic, to really look at where our lives are going from here and wanting things to sort of move forward. So the new moon in Leo, for those people that follow the show regularly, you'll understand when I talk about working with candle energy, and I'll bring that into the show right now, that when I work with candles, and I do quite often, I like to look at, particularly on a new moon cycle, I like to work with the energy of the new moon starting 2 days before the new moon. So I would have started my new moon energy or my new moon ritual on the 29th or July 29, and I write a little list and I try and put at least 3 things on my list, 3 things I'm hoping to attract into my life. Now, this is not necessarily something that's just going to happen in the next month or the next couple of days. It may be a longer term project. It may be sort of one that's an immediate thing, one that's a midterm thing, and one that's a long-range thing that I'm trying to bring into my life that's new. So I write 2 identical lists. I write 3 things that I'm trying to attract to myself, but I also like to release 3 things at the same time. So if I've got 4 things on my list, I'm writing 4 new things I want to attract, I release 4 things, or sort of say that 4 things are coming to a close so that there's enough room in my life. So I like to work with the new moon in this way, that I look at 2 days on the approach, 3 days of the new moon cycle, and then 2 days of the decline. So when we're working with a candle, these candles have dual wicks in them. I light 1 wick one day and 1 wick the next day. I write out my list, I read it out aloud, then I light the candle, and then I pop the candle underneath on a coaster. But underneath that coaster is where I put my list that I've written that I'm reading out to the universe. So I send that out to the universe and I work with my full moon candle. And obviously, because we're working with the energy of Leo, I would also be working with my fire sign candle. And this is the reasons why I write 2 lists. Now, I like to burn my candles for 15 minutes to 2 hours per day. I do sit with the candle purely for safety reasons. I like to sit there and work with the energy of the candle. And I use that time as my meditation time, where I gaze into the candle and I try and manifest, or just let my mind go blank, or just enjoy the flickering flame of the candle, or candles in this case. And I like to use that time to sort of allow it to be my still time of the day. So again, the 2-week situation, 1 week one day, 1 week the next day, and that way you'll get a much longer burn time. Now, for people that don't necessarily have a big space, you can purchase one of our gift box sets. This week I've made it up with 2 fire sign candles and a new moon candle, but you can choose any of the 28 candles in our range. So these will burn for about 15 hours. You'll get up to about 100 hours out of our extra large candles if you do burning the alternate wick. So these are a great alternative if you've got a small space or you want to take them to the office at work. Again, I like to sit with my candles. And again, the same principle, placing them on a coaster. Never put a candle directly on furniture because they are glass, and the glass does sort of, absorb the atmospheric temperature. So if it's cold like it is here at the moment, you don't want the warmth of the candle burning on the cool glass. It might shatter, and that's one of the reasons why I put them on a coaster. For those of you that don't want to work with a candle but you want to work with the energy of the candle, can I suggest a melt warmer? You can pick them up at your department store, your local supermarket, fairly inexpensive. These are electric ones, and I take 2 teaspoons of the soy wax at the beginning of the cycle and then half a teaspoon a day. Again, same principle, write out your list, read it out aloud as you flick your melt warmer on. And this you can leave safely going all day. You don't have to babysit it. But I still suggest that you need to spend 15 minutes as you're looking at the wax melting, and sort of use that time to really focus on your intent, purpose and direction. It is really important that we do believe what we've put down on our list. It's no point in putting it down and saying, oh, that's that done and dusted. We have to really believe in what we're saying, and we have to believe that we deserve it. And I had a reading earlier this week with a colleague of mine, and she reminded me that we need to make requests from the universe. If we want something in our lives, we need to put in a requisition form, like put a request in and say, okay, I'm going to the supermarket, I request a parking spot. And, if we start with simple little things like that and start to make that second nature, then of course we can up the ante to other more important things that we might require in our lives or we believe that we deserve. But that also goes hand in hand with working with your candles. Just because you've written 3 things on your list or 5 things on your list that you want to draw towards you, you can get into the habit of using this request system on a daily or an hourly basis, as long as you don't become too greedy. So the new moon in Leo is a time of new opportunities, of everything being new, sometimes known as the dark moon. It's a time when we really need to be looking for the freshness, the newness in our life. And when it's in the Leo energy, it's telling us that it's time to get up and perform. It's the time to sort of get out there, strut our stuff, show the world what we're made of. And, we might be looking for, in an indirect way, applause or recognition for some of the things that we've achieved in our lives or the things that we're hoping to achieve. But it's more about, I think, being proud, about being very comfortable in your own skin at who you are, what you're hoping to achieve, and showing the world what you're made of. And, for those fellow Leos, and I'm not a Leo, it's their time to really shine, because the sun's in your sign, the new moon's in your sign. It's that time to go and ask for the pay rise, which would be lovely. But for the rest of us mere mortals that aren't Leos, it's a time when I think we can all shine in our own light too. It's the time when we can really take a little bit more notice of our appearance, looking at whether there's things there that we need to tweak. Is it time that we need to look at a different exercise program or dressing more age appropriately, or is it time to get a new haircut or a new hairstyle? Or is it time to revamp the wardrobe? It's a time when we really do want to reward ourselves a little bit. And even if it is only a small item, it makes us feel good in our soul. And it's sort of a way of giving back to ourselves. And I think quite often we forget to give to ourselves. We're too busy giving to everyone else that we forget to give to ourselves. And that's a very important thing that we need to be focusing on, is that we are able to and are allowed to give to ourselves. It's, we need to be able to do that. It's no point in just giving all the time and never receiving, or never asking for anything in return, because then the scales are out of balance. And everything is about things being in imbalance in your life. So this week I'm pleased and excited to talk about our female Leo, as we've been working our way around the zodiac. Astrologically, we've been featuring an actor or an actress every week, and this week we're up to the female section of the Leo part of the chart. This week I'm going to talk about Halle Berry. And it was interesting when I started to do a little bit of research on Halle, and I've watched her in many, many films, and I'm a really big fan of hers. I suppose in some sort of way, because I don't sit there and focus on somebody's race or their colour or their religion or whatever, I just tend to look at people as being people, and I don't take too much notice of the colour of their skin or their heritage. I look at their talent and what they're sharing with the world, that I'd forgotten that she was African American. I just was just so in awe of her amazing energy. And she always seems to be very upbeat, very positive, really sort of a gentle, caring, but a dynamic sort of person at the same time. And as I started to do the research, I started to realise why I was so attracted to her. Here's a very, very attractive woman who spent her early years as a model. She worked her way through many beauty pageants and things like that, raising money for charities and places that she was very passionate about. And yes, she appeared in the Miss World contest, and I mean, that's no mean feat by any stretch of the imagination. Anybody that gets the opportunity to go into a beauty pageant like that and then actually gets picked to go into the Miss World contest, whether they take out the title or not, they have to be stunningly beautiful inside and out to be picked to go into that pageant. And she was in that pageant a few years ago now. But I suppose more importantly than anything, the thing was that really struck me, that I felt that she's such a role model, particularly for young women and more so African American women, is she's the first woman ever in history to win an Academy Award in the African American society. And I think that's a real feather in her cap, but it's also more importantly an inspiration to other young women that anything is achievable. You don't have to look at that there's boundaries or restrictions just because you're slightly different or not perceived to be the same or equal to everybody else, that you don't come from the same playing field, that anybody can achieve anything that they set their mind to. And Halle Berry has so many awards under her belt and so many performances that she's done, on the big screen, in television series. There's too many to mention. But, she's such an amazing actress. She can go from being in a romantic comedy into a very, very serious role and a very dramatic role. And I think that brings out her ability as an actress to be able to own the part and to make us be part of the journey with her of the message or the character that she's playing, that we're right there with Halle by her side. We're understanding the message, we're understanding the storyline, and that takes a really dedicated actress to be able to do that. So we're going to take our first call up, and it's Jane in Woonsocket, Rhode Island in the USA. Are you there, Jane?
Yes, ma'am.
How can I help you this evening, sweetie? Do you have a question for me?
Yes, ma'am. I'm looking for my future to know whether the prosperity within my job is going to be a possibility within my future this year.
Okay, Jane. It's very, very interesting as I started to tune into your energy, Jane. I think this year hasn't been what I would call one of the easiest years for you. I think it's been a year where you you get a bit of a go on, and then all of a sudden everything comes to a dead standstill. And then you sort of get everything moving again, and then sort of again we come to another blockage or another standstill again. I want to sort of say to you, this is a year where it was meant to be that way. There's nothing you could have done that would have made it a smoother or an easier journey this year. You just have to work with the energy that's being shared with you. But it's also a time where I think that you've had the opportunity to stop and sort of have a good look at your life and sort of ask yourself questions about whether you're happy with where things are progressing. Are you happy with the friendships, the family environment, where you're living? Are you happy with your job? So you've really been questioning a lot of things right across the board. And that brings me back to your question about your job and whether or not it's going to be financially beneficial for you. I do feel that there's new opportunities coming from this job, and I'm going to say in the form of a promotion or an opportunity there to earn extra money, but I don't feel it's much before September. So we're nearly heading into August, so it's not very long to wait. I do feel that they are pleased with the work that you've been doing, and I just don't feel up until now there's been an opportunity there for them to show you how much they do appreciate what you've been doing. There's been no openings there to offer you a promotion or an opportunity to earn extra money, but it is certainly coming. I did feel, though, with this new promotion, this new opportunity, it will also lead into some extra training or some extra study that they will suggest to you, but they're saying to you it's not mandatory. I'm going to say to you it is. I think you need to take it up, whether it fits in with your lifestyle or not, because it's the next integral part towards where the job will lead you to. If you want to continue to grow and to continue to sort of get promotions in this line of work that you're in, you're going to need to continue to train to sort of upskill yourself to be able to meet those demands. I also want to say to you, Jane, there seems to be some question marks around where you're living. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's got to be a move of residence. It just means that things are changing around where you are. So I don't know whether that means you're just literally changing the furniture around, or whether there's been some changes in the home that you've had to adjust to. To me, it's sort of been, I'm going to say, an uncomfortable energy. I'm going to say that there's been things that have been brought to your attention there, or family issues this year that have needed more attention than what you first thought. And that sort of left you a little bit tired and sort of thinking, oh, when is this ever going to stop? All I want to do is to be able to take a breather and just sort of relax a little bit. Well, I'm going to say again, it's not very far away. So I think you really do need to give yourself a good pat on the back, Jane, because I feel that you have worked hard, and that's a good thing, but I feel that you need to sort of just keep going, sweetie, and be aware that you need to be very careful about what you're putting into your mouth. Make sure that what you're feeding yourself is as nutritious as possible so that we can keep the energy levels up as we rocket towards the end of the year. So I hope that's been of help, Jane.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and I just want to, I want you to understand that you couldn't have done anything differently that would have changed how this year's been for you. If anything, you've handled it with such grace and such dignity. And it's sort of like, and I'm sure there's been days there where you just didn't want to get out of bed. It was just sort of like everything in your body was aching. You felt exhausted and you thought, oh, here we go again. But you kept going and you did it with a smile on your face. And that's a hard thing to do, Jane, when you got to keep going and you sort of think, I can't see an end to this, but you've done it, and you've done it with such style, sweetie.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. But just be aware, darling, next year's going to be a much easier year because you've put all the hard yards in this year, and, we're really going to start to see the rewards coming. So I'll leave it there with you, Jane, but it was lovely to speak with you tonight, sweetie. We're going to go to April in Gibson in Ohio. Are you there, April?
Yes, I'm here. Hello.
Hello, sweetie. How can I help you tonight? Do you have a lovely question for me to work with?
Oh, I wanted to know about my finances.
Your finances, yes. Okay, we can certainly talk about finances, April. The first thing that they're showing me or sharing with me, April, is that there's been a number of endings, changes and transformations. And I'm going to say that hasn't just happened in the last month. I think that's been sort of the theme for the last 12 to 18 months, where a lot of doors have closed and we've had to sort of wait for new ones to sort of open up. But during this transition period, I think there's also been some extra strain on finances where we've had to sort of pluck money out of somewhere to sort of accommodate the things that we've needed extra money for, or things that we've had to purchase or whatever. So it has left a little bit of a dent in your budgeting and your financial sort of, bank balance and things like that. And you're sort of wondering whether or not we're ever going to get this back onto an even keel. I do believe we are, and I do believe we're at the end of what I'm going to say is the unexpected extra expenses that you had to come up with. It's sort of like now we can slowly start to claw our way back to a position where you start to feel comfortable.
Okay.
It's been a particularly expensive year, hasn't it? There's been a few unexpected things that cropped up this year.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. That's coming to an end now. It's like we can budget now for where we're going. You know, like there's no extra surprises there of the not so pleasant kind. You know, the surprises that are coming towards you now are good surprises. But I still think out of all of this, April, I feel that you've learned so much about how you spend money and how you delegate money for, you know, not just budgeting, but sort of future planning and things like that, where I don't think you fully understood where your money was going until this year. You know, and it's because it was a little bit tighter that you started to realise, well, hang on a minute, I'm spending a little bit too much in this area. If I do this and streamline that, then that'll give me a little bit of extra money to put over here. And it's sort of like, it's been a good exercise because I think it's taught you to sort of really be conscious of the money that you're going to spend before you spend it. So you're now sort of, you're not just doing it like on automatic pilot. You stop and you think about it and say, is this really necessary? Yes, it is, then I'll proceed. If it's not, well, then I can put it off for another week or a month, or no, I don't need it. So this has been some very, very good lessons, setting you up for the coming years, April, in as much as I'm not saying hard years financially, I'm saying giving you the opportunity to make the money that you earn really work for you and sort of get you financially secure much faster. So it's been a learning year, it's been a learning curve, but it's been a very positive year in that way because you've learnt well. You've really gone to the top of the class with it. Is there potentially another job coming up or a change in the job that you're in that would give you the opportunity to earn more money?
Oh, no, I don't have any new jobs coming up. But we bought a commercial building that we were planning on turning into a business, but we had to, there was so much wrong with it and so much came up that it literally just drained us.
Right. Yeah, but I still feel that there's something else coming, even though that wasn't, you know, probably the best decision. Look at what you've learned out of that. You know, even though it financially drained you, look at what you've gained in knowledge that if you were to go into something else or contemplate going into something else and turning it into another income stream, this time you'd be so much ahead of the game that you'd know what to look for and what questions to ask and what to avoid. I still feel there's another opportunity coming before 6 months is out, connected to another income on top of what's already coming into the family household.
Okay.
And that's good because it's going to sort of really financially set the scene for, you know, we're putting a good foundation down to build upon that so that we can really start to create some wealth here.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's what I need.
Yeah, and that's what you were working towards. And I'm not saying what you did was wrong. And I mean, I think it's one of those things that I like to call karmic. You know, we can go into something, we can do all our homework and everything looks great, but we have to deal with what's put in front of us. And we sort of turn around and think, well, how come I missed that? Or why did I go that way? Why didn't I see or sense some sort of sign that this was wrong? Well, we're not meant to, because it's part of the lesson, or one of the lessons we came here on earth to learn. We have to experience this, and we have to experience it sort of like raw, like with no intuition, no gut feeling, no anything. We go into it, and this is where our greatest learning comes from. And that's what I think this commercial premise was for you and your husband. I think it was one of those karmic learning curves. So you've learnt that now. So now we're going to sort of start to reap some rewards from that experience. You know, we'll recoup the money we've lost on that, you know, potential opportunity in another sort of way. So I do feel the next 12 to 18 months we've got the opportunity to recoup that plus more back towards you. But you're certainly heading in the right direction financially, April, so just keep going, because things will improve and you will get to where you wanted to be. It's just that you're going to take a different road to get there.
Okay.
Okay, so I hope that's helped you, April.
Yeah, that has.
Wonderful. Lovely to speak with you, sweetie. So it's been an interesting Mercury retrograde. Mercury is still retrograde for another few days. He finishes his little retrograde cycle on about August 2. I'm doing the happy dance, let me assure you. It's been a very, very unusual Mercury retrograde this time. I mean, Mercury goes retrograde 3 times a year, and we talk about it 3 times a year on the show, where it's anything from about 2.5 weeks to 3 weeks. This one seems to have been like 3 years, or it's felt like that. That anything that could possibly go wrong on a communication level, whether it's your internet connection or whether it's your telephone or your cell phone or any of those wonderful gadgets that we use on a day-to-day basis, it's been a time where it's been quite testing in those sort of ways. And it's been a really difficult time, I think, for a lot of people with personal communication too. A lot of people have sort of, my inbox has been full. I don't seem to be able to get people to listen to me. Nobody's got their listening ears on. Well, that's all typical Mercury retrograde. But it's also been a time where I think people have really been asking themselves where they're going, what they're doing. Have I really achieved what I wanted to achieve this year? And it's been a very introspective Mercury retrograde. And I haven't been immune to that either. I've had my same questions and things like that about it as well. So I just want to share with everybody that Mercury will be going direct soon, and we can all breathe a sigh of relief, which will be absolutely wonderful, that we can all get our positivity hats out of the wardrobe again and sort of get ready to be fired up and start, communicating in a bigger way. But let's use the power of this new moon in Leo as Mercury comes to a close with his retrograde cycle and start to get out there and strut our stuff. It's the time to to feel very positive, to know that new opportunities are coming our way. It's a time to show people what we're made of and to be very proud of what we have achieved. So until next week, be very kind to each other and kind to yourselves, and don't forget to stop and smell the roses or smell the coffee along the way. Bye for now.